Welcome to episode 147 of the Fully In It podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about creating a life and a business that exceeds any expectations you have ever had. If you've been feeling lately like you're ready to make big moves and break free of feeling stuck or stagnant, or maybe you're just not clear on the path forward, then this episode is for you. Welcome to Fully In It, a show for moms who are called to grow themselves while growing their families. Join me, Kate Saffel, a life and a business coach for moms, a homeschooling mama of 3, and a woman on a quest to show that our lives become even more meaningful when we remember why we are here and what truly matters most. This show is about going fully in it for you and the people you love by showing up powerfully in motherhood, entrepreneurship, in your home life, and for your family vision. Join me for weekly episodes that will inspire you to live intentionally and by your values, to slow down and truly be present to your family life, to make decisions that grow a profitable business without sacrificing anything in the process, and to become the kind of mom and woman you know you're meant to be in this lifetime. I remember when I first started my personal development journey, I had this realization that my family's life could be a whole heck of a lot better than how it was currently. And there wasn't anything wrong with our life. We had a really great life, but I just had this inkling inside that there was more available for us. I had started reading books and podcasts and poring over Instagram accounts of these families that were doing insanely epic things in the world. And while there's nothing wrong with craving an ordinary and simple life, I also knew that my personal life path included epic adventure and living out a major purpose, helping others, and creating a better life for my kids. When I was a little girl, I used to fantasize about traveling in a motorhome. So, true story, there was this couple that lived across the street from my family, and he was a professional clown. Really, and his name was Bob, and they were super nice, but he had a motorhome parked in his driveway, and I would ride my bike up and down our street. We lived out in the country, and I would just look at that motorhome, and I would just think, wow, I wonder all the places that it's been, and if I had a motorhome like that, where could I go? I've always been happiest exploring new places and collecting experiences from my earliest ages, and I just knew that I wanted this for my kids too. I also dreamed of having a meaningful purpose for my life that would allow me to help others. I have always felt deeply called to serve others, and if you can relate to this, this is just something that is inside of you. But I had no idea of how to actually do that. Like, what would that look like? Like, when you think about, like, I want to help others, like, that's pretty broad. It's pretty vague. How do you get that clarity around what it is that you are uniquely created to do? But here's what I want you to know is that no matter what you see on social media, most people's journeys have lots of twists and turns, and mine was no exception. I want to share this with you because sometimes we get in our own way, or we tell ourselves that others have it figured out and that we don't, and like there's something wrong with us. At the same time, I also want you to know that you can 100% have a life and a business that delights and surprises you with how good it is. That anything you want to create and experience is possible, no matter where you are starting from. I also firmly believe that as mothers, our best chance of doing this is by creating a successful business that creates time, location, and financial freedom. And as you're going to hear in this episode, I explored so many different avenues to fund my dream life. And the only one that has been insanely successful has been being an entrepreneur and having my own business. It was a bumpy road, though, to get to this point of having a multiple six-figure business, my husband being able to quit his job, us traveling the US for 3 years total, which we did over a period of 5 years. and just checking off all of these incredible experiences and making memories with my kids. It took a while to get there, as you're going to hear now. So early on in my motherhood journey, there were several things that came to me very clearly that I loved, that were meaningful to me. And the first was that I loved writing and telling stories to my children and to others. So like many moms in the early 2010s, I started a blog, and I began mine in 2011. I also wrote for other people's platforms, and I began homeschooling my oldest. I had a younger daughter at the time, but I just had the two kiddos. And as I began to homeschool, I also wrote for a very well-known homeschooling group that shall remain unnamed. But I began, getting my feet wet with what it would look like to professionally write. I also wrote a full children's chapter book that began as the stories I would tell my kids at bedtime. I posted on Instagram, which again, at that time, this was, 2014. They were like little mini blog posts. And I also contributed articles for indie magazine publications. At the same time, I couldn't shake this deep knowing that we were meant to see more of the world as a family, and specifically deeply explore our own country. And whether or not you're from the US, because I feel like even those of us who live in the US, we don't realize this, the United States is massive. Until you start driving across it, you don't realize how big it is. You look at a map and you're like, oh yeah, we look at maps as children and we're like, okay, yep, that's what it is. But when you set out across it yourself and you realize how many different roads there are, how many different places there are to experience, there is truly no bottom to the things that you can see in this country. And if you live somewhere else in the world, you definitely need to come to the US sometime, just simply to see how vast and beautiful and diverse it is. Because even after years of traveling the US, I'm still so in love with it, and there's still so much that I haven't even seen yet. I began following families on social media who traveled full-time in their RVs, and they had figured out paths for remote income. Now, a lot of times it was the dad, and he was, some kind of online, software engineer, computer programmer. It was always those kind of occupations. And then typically the mom was just a stay-at-home mom. And that was how they funded their travels, was that the dad would just work all day. And then the mom would go take the kids and go hike and do things. And I just thought, I wasn't crazy about that idea. One, because, it set the expectation that the main income provider would not actually be experiencing a lot of the travels, that they would be kind of glued to a desk. It's just that their desk would be moving around the country. And I wanted different for my family. I wanted us to be able to enjoy it together. So my earliest business inclinations were founded with trying to figure out, how do I fund my family vision? And this is why I always recommend you get clear on what you want and desire first. Then you create your business to support it. And, this is the case inside of Expand Mentoring membership. I'm always going to ask you, what do you actually want? What do you dream of for your family? We want to start with that first, but so many people get it backwards, and they either find a career or they create a business that they think is going to make the money that they want, and then they realize they're trapped in it. They don't have the freedom that they thought that they would have. And as mamas, we need time and location and financial freedom. So on a 3.5-week epic road trip across the country to California and back, Kirk and I read The 4-Hour Workweek. It's by Tim Ferriss. Maybe you've heard of it. This book blew my mind, that you don't actually have to work 40 hours a week. I just thought that's what everybody does. Maybe you work 50, maybe you work 60 hours a week. This book gave me my first taste of how you can create a life beyond expectations by using an online business as a financial tool. And yet, even though I was so inspired, even though my wheels were turning of how I could implement that myself, it would take 2 more years for me to start my own business. I was teaching online for a university at the time, so this did bring in remote income, but it wasn't enough to support a family. And Kirk had zero interest in working online. So part of the puzzle was figuring out how could we fund a travel lifestyle. I thought, based on my interest in writing, maybe I could get a book deal and that could help. I could, publish books and write for magazines and kind of go a bit of the influencer route on social media. So that was one of the options I explored. I also explored becoming a social media manager for other people as early as 2016. So this was like way, way early on. I had a podcast at the time called Cohesive Home, and my co-host and I explored ways that we could monetize it. We began doing sponsored episodes and we made a little money here and there. Then in 2017, I became pregnant with my third, and I began sending the manuscript for my children's book out to publishers and agents. I did get some interest, but no yeses. And then I gave birth, and the book went on the proverbial shelf where it still sits today. There was a moment in 2019 where a publisher was interested again in the book, and then COVID happened, and the publishing world just kind of went sideways. And I share this because not everything you try is going to work. Did I want to publish my book? Absolutely. Do I still sometimes think about it? Yes. But you're not going to knock it out of the park every single time, no matter how social media makes it look like overnight success is a real thing. You have to be willing to try and try and try again. Be flexible. Be willing to figure it out. By 2017, I'd been trying for several years to figure out my path beyond just motherhood. Then in late 2017, Kirk and I made the radical decision to begin traveling full-time, and that the way we would fund it would be via short-term travel medical contracts that Kirk would take as a hospital speech pathologist. By 2018, I was so tired of not having a clear path. I felt so lost. I felt stuck. At this point, I knew I was meant to be an entrepreneur, but I wasn't sure how. And so I got some guidance via a coach, and I finally committed to becoming a life coach for moms. And as you know, the rest is history. But here's the thing, it took me years and lots of false starts to get clear on and finalize my path. And once I started my business, it was another 2 years before I made serious income. In 2020, I began hitting my first 5-figure months, and this blew my dang mind. I mean, just a few years prior, I was exploring the idea of doing someone else's Instagram for her, and she was going to pay me $500 a month, and that felt like huge money. And now I was making $10,000 or more per month as a homeschool mom. But remember, the vision for our life was what came first. We got clear as a family on the life we dreamed of, and then we found the ways to fund it and make it possible. If you are in a season of trying to figure out how to create a successful business and a dreamy life, it starts with owning your desire for more for your family. You cannot come at this from a place of telling yourself that it is bad or wrong to want more. You do need to dream bigger than you are right now and surround yourself with examples of people living incredible lives. But at the same time, don't let that be all that you do. It's so easy to get stuck in consuming other people's lives instead of proactively creating the one you want, and that starts today. You need to deeply believe in how capable you are. This is the time when you challenge all of your limiting beliefs around what is possible for you. Motherhood is not a limitation, but an asset. Your children are your biggest why. Then you need to decide on a business model that fits around your current family life and complements your natural gifts and talents. This is where you're going to make your best guess and you're just going to commit to something. Remember, I tried multiple things before landing on becoming a coach. And even when I committed to becoming a coach, I wasn't 100% sure. But I wasn't going to waste any more time waffling and second guessing myself. The sooner you commit, the sooner you can see results and change your family's life forever. It is time to step into a life beyond your wildest expectations. No more fear, second guessing, or waiting. Go fully in it, take the leap, and blow your own mind with what is possible. And if you're ready to surround yourself with other ambitious, big dreaming moms doing the same and have my mentorship in the process, You belong in Expand Mentoring membership. This year-long group coaching program was designed for women like you who know you're meant to create a life of meaning for you and your family. You want your business to fund your wildest dreams and have your family's back. Whether you're still trying to figure out your business or you already have a business that you now want to massively grow, I can help you. Doors open May 2nd through 14th for the next round. Head to happierInmotherhood.com/expand-membership to learn more and join us. Before we wrap up this episode, I just want to say thank you so much for being on this journey with me and also for letting me in on yours. We mamas get to be the example of what is possible in motherhood and for our families. I am forever cheering you on, and I will see you next week.